Spartacus was no ordinary man. Born into a world of oppression and brutality, he was destined to be a tool for Rome's entertainment, a gladiator meant to fight, suffer, and die for the amusement of the masses. But fate had other plans. From the blood-soaked sands of the arena, he would rise to become a symbol of defiance, a beacon of hope for the enslaved, and a nightmare for the most powerful empire in the world. His story begins in Thrace, a rugged land of warriors, where he was born into a life of hardship. As a young man, he fought as a soldier, honing his skills in battle, his body tempered by war. But the iron grip of Rome was relentless. At some point, he was captured, possibly betrayed or defeated in battle, and forced into a life of slavery. His captors saw his potential for combat and sent him to the gladiatorial school in Capua, a place of relentless training, cruelty, and survival of the fittest. The gladiatorial school was a place where men were stripped of their humanity, turned into weapons for the entertainment of the Roman elite. Spartacus endured grueling training, forced to master the art of combat in various forms. He wielded swords, tridents, and shields, learning to anticipate the movements of his opponents, to strike with precision, and, most importantly, to survive. Every battle in the arena was a spectacle, a deadly performance where the slightest mistake meant death. Yet Spartacus was not like the others. He did not accept his fate. He did not yield to the life Rome had forced upon him. Instead, he watched, he listened, and he planned. Then, the moment arrived. Alongside 70 other gladiators, Spartacus staged a daring escape. Armed with whatever they could find, kitchen knives, broken weapons, anything sharp enough to spill blood, they fought their way out of the gladiatorial school, cutting down their captors and fleeing into the countryside. Rome, blinded by its arrogance, saw them as little more than runaway slaves, a minor nuisance to be crushed quickly. But Spartacus was more than a runaway. He was a leader. He knew that survival depended on more than just fleeing, it required strategy, discipline, and unity. He and his fellow fugitives took refuge on Mount Vesuvius, using the natural terrain to their advantage. More slaves joined them, swelling their ranks, and soon, they were not just a band of escaped gladiators but an army. Rome, still underestimating them, sent a small force to deal with the rebellion. The Roman soldiers ascended the mountain, confident in their victory. But Spartacus, ever the tactician, outmaneuvered them. Using vines and ropes, his men descended from an unexpected angle, catching the Romans off guard and annihilating them. It was a humiliating defeat for Rome, and it would not be the last. Word of Spartacus spread like wildfire. Slaves across the region heard of the uprising, of a warrior who had defied Rome and lived. They came in droves, men, women, children, all seeking freedom, all willing to fight for it. His army grew into the tens of thousands. What had begun as an act of desperation had become a full-scale war. Rome could no longer ignore him. The Senate, recognizing the threat, sent more legions, seasoned troops to crush the rebellion. But Spartacus was no ordinary opponent. He used guerrilla tactics, striking swiftly and disappearing before the Romans could retaliate. His men knew the land, moved quickly, and fought with the desperation of those who had tasted freedom and refused to return to chains. Battle after battle, Spartacus and his army defied expectations. They defeated Roman legions, seized supplies, and continued to grow in strength. He was more than a warrior, he was a visionary. Some say he sought to march on Rome itself, to bring the empire to its knees. Others believe he wanted to lead his people to safety, to cross into lands where Rome's reach could not follow. Whatever his true intentions, one thing was certain, he had become a legend. But Rome does not forget. The Senate, embarrassed and enraged, placed the war in the hands of Marcus Licinius Crassus, a ruthless and ambitious general. Crassus, unlike his predecessors, did not underestimate Spartacus. He studied his tactics, cut off his supplies, and forced him into a decisive confrontation. The final battle took place in the south of Italy. Spartacus, outnumbered and cornered, refused to surrender. He knew what capture meant, crucifixion, humiliation, the destruction of everything he had fought for. So he chose to fight. Leading his men in one last charge, he carved through the Roman lines, desperate to reach Crassus himself, to end the war with a single stroke. But the odds were too great. Surrounded, Spartacus fell in battle, his body lost among the thousands who perished that day. Rome, vindictive and brutal, made an example of his followers. 6,000 men were crucified along the Appian Way, a grim reminder of what happened to those who defied the empire. But though Spartacus was gone, his legacy endured. His rebellion shook Rome to its core, proving that even the mightiest empire was not invincible. His story, passed down through generations, became a symbol of resistance, of courage, of the unbreakable will to be free. Spartacus was more than a gladiator. He was a warrior, a leader, a legend. And though Rome crushed his body, it could never silence his name.